Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video and another How to Ninja video we're going to be sharing with you all today. I think this is episode 7. Last time we went over blues, and then today we're going to be going over cards that are not attacks, is the best way to put it. Like, it's not necessarily not attack actions or non-attack actions or whatever, it's just cards that are not attacks in Katsu, and I'll kind of explain why I did what I did here in a second. For anyone who's new to the channel, maybe you're new to the series, we're doing a how-to ninja guide, basically going over everything there is to can go over possibly about ninja as I think of it. So anyone that's getting new to the class or new to the game can kind of get a good understanding of how the classes work, or how this class works, and hopefully enjoy it as much as I do. So today, yeah, we're going to go over cards that are not attacks. And the reason that I did this instead of just doing non-attack actions or defense reactions or attack reactions or whatever is because right now in any ninja, in my opinion, there is and I'll kind of separate these. We'll start with Katsu first. Control Katsu's kind of gone, and mid-range Katsu's around a little bit. It's mainly aggro Katsu. The best way to put it is, in order for Katsu to still do what he wants to do and whatever style of Katsu you play, like the whole point of the ninja class in general is to use combo and use like buffs from your attacks chaining together to be able to force your opponent to block, right? It's not the premier aggro deck in the format. Chain is the premier aggro deck, and Briar can honestly race it pretty well too. Where it's different is it has on-hit effects that those don't necessarily have more times than not. And so because of that, you can't run too many cards that are not attacks, because if you run too many cards, then you start to take away from what the hero is trying to do. Same thing with Ira and Benji even. Like, you're only going to run but so many. So because of that, like, for the most part, in any Benji's kind of on his own, because Benji really doesn't run a ton of attack reacts or defense reacts. But in general, in my opinion, with any ninja, you should not be going over 13 cards that are not attack actions. And that counts defense reactions and attack reactions. So if you have a 60 card deck, or even in Blitz with Benji and Ira, in my opinion, a 40 card deck, you should not have over 12 to 13 cards that are not attacks. And because it just starts to take away from the hero. So all that being said, you're kind of going to ask, oh, what should we run? There's a couple rules similar to how I did the blues list rule. I'll do kind of non-attack action rules. So you all, if you take anything away from this video, take this away. Well, the first rule is one we just went over. You should not have more than 13 cards in your deck that are not attack actions. You could go up to 15. I personally would not go over 13. Definitely don't go over 15. That's rule number 1. Rule number 2 is however many. So normally, like, most of the time, Katsu or any hero, so Katsu is the only one that can sideboard. So when you're talking specifically about Katsu or any CC ninja hero, because we're about to have Phi, is whenever you side out a card that's not an attack, you have to side in a card that's not an attack. So for example, if you're siding out a Razor Reflex, you need to side in, or if you're siding in a Flick Flack, side out a Razor Reflex, or don't side out a Surging Strike, or side out a Leg Tap, or side out a Blackout Kick for a Flick Flack, because you're not siding in and out the same card type, if that makes sense. So always do that. So if you want to side in 3 Flick Flacks because you're playing a Dorinthia and you want to be able to be a little bit more defensive, or an Azalea or something like that, then you need to side out a Razor, an Ancestral, and maybe one even bigger than that or something like that. Like, don't side out attacks for cards that are not attacks. That's rule number 2. Yeah, so those are basically the 2 rules. Don't go over 13, and don't side out different style cards for siding in something else, right? Don't side out an attack for a card that's not an attack, because it takes away what ninjas are trying to do. So, all that being said, I'm going to go over kind of like the main cards that are not attacks, and then kind of go into some side ones that people use and explain why I would or would not use them and when I would use them. So the main ones you see here, right, are the ones I have in the main board of this deck. I felt like this was the easiest way to show it. 1, because it's just easier, and 2, I don't want to sift through all my bulk to find like all these like weird side cards. So the first thing that I usually run, right, we'll take the defense reactions out real fast and Captain's Call. So these are the 3 bread and butter. Oh, we forgot even bigger than that. Sorry, it's an instant, so it's like really different. Sorry about that, y'all. Yeah, so these are the 4 cards that mainly you'll see in most Katsu decks, most even Ira decks and Benji decks. These are, in my opinion, the kind of creme de la creme of cards that are not attacks for Katsu. And we also have to add one more in here because people use Art of War now a lot, and it's really weird. We'll talk about that card. That's going to, I guess, be the spicy take for me. So for these, normally in most Katsu decks and Ira decks, so in Katsu, I'll run 3 Ancestral, 3 Razors, usually 5 even bigger than that, 3 reds, 2 yellows, and then lunging, 1 or 2 lunging presses. So 12 to 13 cards, as you can see. 5 plus 3 is 8, plus 3 is 11, and then 12, 13. You could do this 12 and just do 1 blue lunging press. So basically, these are what I run, and why I run them is it's pretty stable, right? Ancestral and Razor, like, we don't need to talk about those. Everybody knows why you run those. If you're a new player, these should be in every single Ninja deck. It's just hands down. The only time Ancestral should not be in a Ninja deck is sometimes Ira can run like this aggro strategy where she doesn't have a ton of Ninja cards, or it's like 50-50, so this might not be as good, but it's still really good in general, right? Razor and even bigger than that are going to be in every single Ninja deck. I don't know why you wouldn't put them in. Even mid-range control-y, like, I don't know why you wouldn't have those cards in there. Lunging press is kind of like the slightly spicy one. Like, not everybody runs lunging press. I just think it's really good. I think it's a staple. It's a blue. You can pitch if you absolutely need to use it. But people don't expect this card, and I've won so many games off of this card. So these are the 4 that I would say. Even bigger than that, the one thing I want to say is some people run just the reds, some people run just the yellows, some people run reds and yellows, and then I've even seen some wild people running blues. My personal opinion, I would not run blues. I don't like top decking even bigger than that. Like, at blue, it only opts 1. So basically, if you didn't see that card somehow beforehand, you're basically hoping it's an attack. And I get that Katsu or any ninja is mostly attacks, but even then, it's just a little dicey for me. I don't like it. Yellow and reds is what I run with this. Same thing with all these. I run Ancestral. It only can be ran red. Razors only run reds, and Lunging Press obviously only run blues. So that's the basis of it, right? So that's the main board. So let's talk about a couple other cards. One, and the only time I'd see you using this is if it was like you're a brand new player and you see this card. If you're a brand new player and you don't have any other of these good cards and you want to use Come to Fight, you can. You'll see this a lot, like uh, with brand new players. Maybe you opened up, some Walk on Wraith and Arcane Rising boxes, right? You could use this to give +3 to your attacks. I personally don't like buffs like this because same thing with Nimblism, because ninjas care so much about the chain and like chain linking stuff. And when you play non-attack actions in between your attacks, it can hurt your ability to string combo together, which really hurts your game plan overall. So it's not the most popular. But you can run if you're a brand new player and you still have access to a lot of cards, right? The next one is Minnowism. You're seeing a lot of people run the Minnow Belittle build now. Not a lot, an okay amount of people in Katsu specifically running the Minnow build, not so much in Ira or Benji. I personally don't like this. You're making a deck that's already not a great aggro, not the premier aggro deck, even worse of an aggro deck because you're running a lot of low to the ground attacks. You're not using your chain properly. Like, a lot of people are running belittle Minnowism with Mask and Pouncing Links, and I get it, but like, it's just so situational, and you're basically hoping you have one good turn, and if they block properly, it's over. So I personally don't like this card, but if you have nothing else and you want to buff maybe your Whelming Gust Waves or your Rising Knee Thrusts or your something like that, then this could work. Nimblism was an old school card that was used a lot in Katsu way back in Welcome Wraith. Not as much used anymore, but if you're a brand new player, you open a Welcome Wraith box, you got Katsu, and you don't have like all the fancy, attack reactions and stuff yet, like Ancestral Empowerment, you can play Nimblism. It is good for like, because it's 0 cost, so it is good for like a leg tap. Like, you can make a leg tap go for 7, right? Or even make a Torrent Tempo go for 8, which is really nice. So definitely useful if you don't have anything else. Not completely unplayable, just not preferred, really. Smashing Good Time is a sideboard card for Dash. I just put it in here because Dash could get more prominent here in the future, and it'd be a good card to have in the sideboard if she starts to get really good. Gives your next attack +3 on hit. You destroy an item with 2 or less, so you can destroy a Tekla Pounder, you can destroy Purifier, stuff like that. So really good for that. Wax On, don't use this card. unless Briar and Chain are like the only cards decks in the format, there is no reason to use this card. It's so situational when it gets that +2 buff, and you have to run it at red for it to even be worth it. Just run Fate Foreseen or Sink Below, right? So I just wouldn't run this card. Fate Foreseen and Sink Below and Flick Flack are all in the same category, right? They're defense reactions. Fate Foreseen is not as popular in ninjas. You don't really should use it that much. I would use Sink Below or Flick Flack. I usually have 3 Sinks and 3 Flick Flacks in most of my sideboards for Katsu. And then I run Flick Flack and Sinks in Ira and Benji. Flick Flack's really good if you're in CC, if you're going against go wide heroes like Dorinthia or like a Briar or somewhere where you're going to have to probably block multiple times in a turn. This allows you to get a lot of good block value. Then you have Sink Below, which is better against like Guardians or Ice or something that's going to do a lot of hand disruption. Like, so you can cycle out cards that you don't want to lose, basically. It's really good for that. So that's what I would do. Unmovable is the last defense reaction. I used to be really big on this card. I'm not as big on it anymore. In Ira or Benji, you just don't play it. There's no point. But in Katsu, like I used to run it, but I run really aggro Katsu, and the problem with this card is it takes away what you're trying to do. Like it was really popular in the Starvo meta because we were trying to get around Starvo somehow. But even then, the only way this card's even good is if you have it in Arsenal and you have like 2 blues in hand. And even then, it takes a blue from your hand and you're stuck with a 3-card hand. If it's a fused Oakenold, you're good. It's still going to hit, or you're not good. It's still going to hit. You have to commit another card from hand in order to fully block it out. If it's a Crippling Crush, you still have to block with one more card or like an equipment or something. So like it's just not worth it. It's not worth the resources. You might as well try to have a good offense as a great defense mentality and just don't worry about this card. But if you absolutely want to try it out, sure, go ahead. Next one, Talisman of Featherfoot. When an attack you control gains exactly +1 during the reaction step, destroy Talisman of Featherfoot, it gains go again. So this would be good on like combine it with Ancestral Empowerment, right? It could be really useful, or Art of War. No, it's during the reaction step, so not Art of War, but Ancestral Empowerment, it's really good for that, or a Lunging Press can give a card go again, but it's really situational. There was one Katsu who did really good in the PQ. I think he won his PQ and he had one of these in there. I don't think he was like building his deck around that. It was just like he had one slot left and used it. Talisman of Warfare is really good in Benji. It's really useful in that, and you can do a lot with it. So, being able to destroy the other person's arsenals. But it does destroy your arsenal at the same time, so that doesn't help as much either. But Benji's like the only place you could use this. Springboard Somersault, it's kind of an older card, not really used that much, but if you don't have anything else, if you arsenal this card, it gets the +2 buff. So it defends for 4, and it's a yellow pitch if you need it. So if you don't have like Sink Blows or Flick Flacks, and you just opened up this for some reason, then you can definitely use it. Let's see. These were the 4 mains. So we got 2 more. So Captain's Call yellow. I use it yellow and blue. It's really good for both. If I've used this in my deck before, it's good to give +2 or go again on your attacks. If you're running like a more mid-rangey Katsu, I wouldn't use it in Ira Benji, but if you're running a more mid-range Katsu, it could be really useful because it can give those combo cards that don't have natural go again. So it's really nice for that. And the blue is really useful as well, to be honest. So, and then Art of War. So this is a spicy one. So people don't hate me for this. I personally don't like Art of War in Katsu. I really don't. You're not going to use it ever in Benji or Ira, so we're just talking about Katsu. So Art of War, in my opinion, like the only time you'd use this is if you're doing like a mid-rangey Katsu or aggro Katsu, right? Not control. I almost never want to banish one of my attacks. It's like if you played this off a Tunic resource, right, and you played it from Arsenal, then it might be useful because now you have a 5-card hand. But that's the only time I see it useful, because if I have to pitch to play this, I'm pitching a card, likely a blue, 2 resources flowing. Then I play this card. Then I get rid of a card. So now I have 1 card in hand and 1 card in arsenal, and I draw 2. So I have 3 cards in hand, 1 card in arsenal. God knows if I drew into something good or bad. Like, I think my philosophy is if you have a tight Katsu list, you shouldn't need this card. You're just trying like heck to make Katsu a better aggro deck, but it also is not making him more consistent. And I just don't like the card. I could see you doing like this for a +1, like play it off a Tunic resource and do like +1 and go again to your next, +1 all attacks and go again to your next attack, and don't draw. That could be useful. Like you play this from Arsenal off Tunic, and then you basically have +1 buff and go again to your next attack. That could be useful. But Katsu already has so much go again anyway that's not as much as good. I just don't like the card. I think people are trying to fit, a square block into a round hole with this card. It's meant for chain. It's meant even for Lexi now. Shoot, it's really meant for chain. It's basically a chain specialization. Other decks try to use it to make it work. I just don't like it. So when it comes to Katsu, your main staples are these 4, like I said. Benji is going to mainly probably use these 3, I would say. Same with Ira. I don't think Ira, and then Ira you can add on the even bigger than that. Your main defense reactions are going to be Fate Foreseen, Sink Below, and or Fate Foreseen and Sink Below, or not Fate Foreseen and Sink Below. Sorry, Flick Flack and Sink Below. And then your other main cards, I think, out of these that are still useful in like a main Katsu build or a main Ninja build right now are Smashing Gun Time and the sideboard for Dash, and that's about it. All these cards are kind of like tech cards that people are running on different stuff that you could run, but I just would advise against it personally. But hopefully this made sense. Hopefully you all, and like can take something away from this. People may have different opinions on what to run, what not to run. It really just depends on what's best for you. This is just how I see cards that are not attack actions. But hopefully you enjoyed this. Hopefully the content made sense. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe if you want to. If not, go to another Fleshberg creator, do the same thing for them so we can get people seeing this game. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.